I never thought I would be uninvited to my own mother's 60th birthday gala, especially not the one I was secretly financing. The text from my father, Alaric, came on a Tuesday morning. I was sitting in my corner office in downtown Chicago, the rain lashing against the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a gray, dismal light over the city. I was in the middle of reviewing a highly complex appraisal for a $20 million commercial high-rise on the Loop. My desk was covered in architectural blueprints, zoning permits, and financial projections. It was the kind of work that required intense focus, the kind of work that had earned me my title as a senior commercial real estate appraiser at the age of 32. My phone buzzed against the mahogany desk, vibrating with a harsh, urgent sound. I reached for it blindly, expecting a message from a client or my assistant. Instead, I saw my father's name on the screen. I opened the message. "You are not invited to Mom's gala. The family decided you are a total disgrace." I stopped breathing. The words blurred on the glowing screen. I had to read the message 3, 4, maybe 5 times just to process the sheer cruelty of the statement. There was no preamble. There was no argument leading up to this. There was no explanation of what I had supposedly done to warrant being called a disgrace. It was just a brutal, sudden execution of my place in the family. A second later, the phone vibrated again. It was a notification from the family group chat, a chat I was technically in, though I rarely spoke. My younger sister, Tamsin, had replied to Alaric's screenshot of the message he sent me. Finally, she wrote, punctuating her cruelty with a party popper emoji. Like they had been waiting for this moment. Like cutting me out of the family was the ultimate prize they had all been working toward for months. A heavy, suffocating silence filled my office. The hum of the air conditioner suddenly felt deafening. I did not cry. I did not scream. Instead, I just sat there, my hand gripping my silver fountain pen so hard my knuckles turned white, staring at my cooling cup of black coffee. The sheer audacity of their words burned through my chest like acid. A total disgrace. That is what my father called me. What he did not say, and what Tamsin conveniently ignored, was the massive, detailed invoice sitting on my desk right at that very moment, right next to my blueprints. It was a final receipt for $50,000. $50,000. That was the cost of the grand ballroom at the Ritz Hotel. $15,000 for the premium catering meant to feed 200 guests. $8,000 for the imported floral arrangements. $5,000 for the live string quartet. $2,000 for the professional photographer. Every single detail of Mom's dream birthday gala was arranged, booked, and paid for by me, through my personal accounts. I had done it all behind the scenes, with Alaric listed as the official event planner so Mom would believe it was a grand, romantic gesture from her husband. They were throwing me away, calling me a disgrace, while actively standing on a luxurious stage that I had bought and paid for. How did it escalate to this? How did I become the villain in a family that survived entirely on my paycheck? I dealt with massive numbers, strict logic, and ruthless negotiations for a living. I could tear apart a fraudulent property portfolio in my sleep. But when it came to my family, I was always the invisible child, desperate and pathetic, hungering for the smallest crumbs of affection. The disrespect was not a sudden explosion. It was a slow, agonizing poison that had been dripping into my life for years. I leaned back in my leather chair, closing my eyes as the bitter memories crashed over me like cold waves. I remembered the sweltering summer day I graduated as valedictorian from my university. I stood on that massive stage, clutching my diploma, looking out at the sea of cheering families, desperately searching for a familiar face. I searched the crowd until my eyes stung, but none of them showed up. Later, Alaric claimed he had a minor headache and needed to rest. Tamsin said she had a nail appointment she could not reschedule without losing her deposit. Yet, 2 years later, when Tamsin graduated from a local community college with barely passing grades, Alaric bought her a brand new red sedan. He threw a massive backyard barbecue, inviting the entire neighborhood, where he stood on a picnic table and raised a beer, toasting to his brilliant, beautiful girl. I had stood in the corner of that yard, holding a warm soda, feeling entirely invisible. I remembered the day I got promoted to senior appraiser. It was the proudest moment of my professional life. I called Alaric, hoping for a simple "I am proud of you, Maeve." Instead, he sighed heavily into the receiver, muttered a brief "that is nice," and immediately pivoted to asking if I could wire him $3,000 to fix the leaking roof. I sent the money that same day. I always sent the money. I paid their property taxes. I covered Tamsin's ridiculous luxury expenses. I bailed out my younger brother, Jace, time and time again. My success, built on grueling 80-hour work weeks, skipped meals, and sleepless nights, was treated by them as a lucky lottery win they were entitled to spend. To Alaric, my income was a direct threat to his fragile ego. Ever since his hours as a logistics manager were slashed 3 years ago, he refused to admit he was struggling. He needed to be the patriarch, the big shot, the ultimate provider. And I let him play that role. I funded his illusion, staying in the shadows, letting him take the credit for the roof, the bills, and now Mom's Gala. And my reward was being called a disgrace and banned from the celebration. I picked up my phone again. My hands were shaking now, not from sorrow, but from a deep, waking rage. The kind of anger that clears your mind and sharpens your vision into a deadly focus. I opened my banking app, navigating to the joint accounts and the connected credit lines I maintained for them. I was about to tap the button to freeze everything, to cut the cord right then and there. But just as my thumb hovered over the screen, a push notification slid down from the top of my phone. It was a pending transaction alert from one of the secondary credit cards. A charge for $2,500. The merchant name read Oakwood Country Club. I froze. My breath hitched in my throat. No one in my family belonged to a country club. My heart hammered against my ribs as I stared at the screen, the notification pulsing like a warning siren. What exactly were they doing with my money? The notification pulsed on my screen, demanding my attention. $2,500 at Oakwood Country Club. I immediately opened my laptop, pulling up the desktop portal of my bank to investigate. The secondary card in question was a physical card I had given to Alaric 2 years ago, specifically designated for family medical emergencies. It was supposed to sit in a locked drawer in his home office. I typed in my multi-factor authentication code, my fingers flying across the keyboard. The loading screen spun for a few agonizing seconds before the dashboard appeared. I navigated to the statement history for that specific card over the last 3 months, a task I usually avoided because looking at their spending habits always triggered my anxiety. The screen populated with rows of transactions, and my stomach plummeted. This was not just one isolated charge. There were dozens of transactions hidden in the digital ledger, creeping up week by week. $300 at a high-end steakhouse downtown. $400 for designer sneakers at a luxury boutique. Frequent, smaller charges at premium car wash stations and valet services. And the locations were all clustered around the wealthy northern suburbs, nowhere near my parents' modest neighborhood. Then it hit me like a physical blow. Oakwood Country Club. That was where my 24-year-old brother, Jace, worked part-time. He was a groundskeeper. He spent his days riding a lawnmower, trimming hedges, and complaining bitterly about the wealthy members he had to serve. But these charges were not for lawnmower fuel or landscaping supplies. Someone had manually entered the card details to purchase a junior VIP membership and was treating the club's dining room like their personal kitchen. Jace. He had memorized the card numbers. He was not just living rent-free in my parents' basement. He was actively stealing from me to play the role of a wealthy socialite at the very country club he mowed lawns for. He was playing dress-up on my dime, trying to impress the rich kids he despised. I grabbed my cell phone and dialed Nola. Nola was my best friend, the owner of a bustling downtown bakery, and the only person in my life who truly understood the toxic dynamic I was trapped in. She answered on the second ring, the loud background noise of clinking baking pans, hissing espresso machines, and chattering customers filling the line. "Tell me you are calling to order a dozen of my double fudge stress cupcakes, because you sound like you are about to commit a felony," Nola said, her voice bright, sharp, and perceptive. "They uninvited me to Mom's Gala," I said. My voice was flat, devoid of the panic or the tears I usually felt when my family lashed out. Alaric texted me that I am a disgrace. Tamsin cheered in the group chat. And I just found out Jace is using my emergency medical card to fund a fake rich kid lifestyle at the country club he mows lawns for. He just charged $2,500 for a membership. The background noise on Nola's end ceased abruptly. I could hear a heavy door close as she stepped into her private office, shutting out the bakery chaos. Maeve. Tell me you are joking right now. I wish I was. Nola let out a breath that sounded like an angry hiss. Maeve, listen to me very carefully. You are a senior commercial real estate appraiser. You negotiate multi-million-dollar deals with ruthless corporate sharks every single day. You know exactly how to value assets. You know how to spot a bad investment from a mile away. But when it comes to your own life, you are valuing yourself at zero. You are letting a bunch of leeches drain you dry while they spit in your face. Why are you still paying for a party you are not allowed to attend? Her words stung, but they were the exact, unfiltered truth I needed to hear. I thought I was helping, I whispered, the old, familiar guilt trying to claw its way back into my throat. I thought if I just provided enough, if I just solved enough of their problems, they would eventually respect me. They would see me as part of the family. They see you, Maeve, Nola fired back, her voice raising in pitch. They see a bank vault with no security guard. They see an endless supply of cash attached to a daughter who is too desperate for love to ever say no. You need to shut this down. Now. Lock the vault. Burn the bridge. I am going to, I promised, my voice hardening, the sadness burning away into pure resolve. I am going to cut it all off. Good. But before you do anything rash, make sure you know exactly what they are plotting. Have you checked that old shared family email account? The one Alaric set up for the holiday newsletters years ago? If they are brazen enough to text you that you are a disgrace, they are definitely talking about you behind your back. Find the evidence, Maeve. See them for who they truly are. Then burn their safety net to the ground. We hung up. I sat in the silence of my office, Nola's words echoing in my head. What do you do when you realize the people sharing your blood view you as nothing more than an ATM without a PIN code? You do not cry. You do not beg for an explanation. You audit them. I opened a new browser tab. I had not logged into that shared family email address in over a year. I typed in the address, my fingers hovering over the keyboard as I tried to remember the old password. I typed it in. Hit enter. The loading wheel spun on the screen for what felt like an eternity. I braced myself. What was I going to find in there? Before diving into the depths of the family email inbox, a morbid, burning curiosity urged me to check social media. I rarely used Facebook or Instagram in my personal life, keeping my profiles strictly professional for networking, but I knew Tamsin practically lived online. She documented every meal, every outfit, and every perceived slight. I opened a dummy account I occasionally used for market research and searched her name. Her profile was set to public, a carefully curated gallery of a luxurious lifestyle she could not actually afford on a bridal assistant's meager salary. The very first post at the top of her feed was a photo taken just yesterday. It was Tamsin, wearing a designer dress, standing in the center of the grand ballroom of the Ritz Hotel. She was holding a crystal flute of champagne, smiling brightly for the camera. The caption read, "Venue tasting for Mom's big 60th. So exhausted from planning every single detail, but Mom deserves the absolute best. Only a few weeks left until the Gala of the year. Hashtag event planner, hashtag daughter of the year." Below that, the comments section was a chorus of praise. The top comment was from Alaric, "So proud of you, sweetheart. Your mother and I have scraped and saved our whole lives to make this happen. It is going to be a magical night for our family." I stared at the screen, a bitter, breathless laugh escaping my lips. Scraped and saved? Tamsin planning every detail? The only thing Tamsin had done was throw a tantrum and demand the most expensive venue in the city, while I handled the complex contracts and quietly wired $50,000 to secure the space. They were parading around the internet, soaking up the praise and admiration from extended relatives and family friends, entirely erasing my existence. There was not a single mention of me. To the digital world, To our extended family, I was a ghost. I closed the social media tabs, the cold anger solidifying into something sharp, heavy, and dangerous. I turned back to the shared family email account. The inbox was cluttered with years of spam, promotional emails, and store coupons. But on the left-hand sidebar, I noticed a folder labeled Family Updates that had recent activity. I clicked on it. It was a chain of forwarded emails and a linked group chat log that automatically backed up to the server. I started reading from the bottom up, tracing their digital conversations from the past few months. The casual, effortless cruelty in their words took my breath away. Tamsin had written a month ago, "Did you guys see Maeve's new work outfit at Sunday dinner? She tries so hard to look corporate and important, but she still just looks like a boring spreadsheet in human form. It is embarrassing." Jace chimed in right after, "Who cares what she wears as long as she keeps paying the Wi-Fi bill and the Netflix account?" Speaking of, Dad, did you get her to cover the car insurance this month? I need my cash for the weekend. Alaric's response made my blood run cold. I told her I had a surprise medical expense coming up. She wired it yesterday. She is so desperate for approval, you just have to sigh heavily on the phone, sound a little sad, and she opens her wallet. It is almost too easy. My vision blurred. I had to grip the edge of my heavy oak desk to ground myself, the wood grounding me in reality. They were not just taking advantage of me, they were actively laughing at my desperation. They knew exactly how to manipulate my deep craving for their love, playing me like a cheap instrument, mocking my vulnerability. But the worst discovery was yet to come. I scrolled up further and found a thread from just a week ago. The subject line was post-gala strategy. Alaric wrote, "Once the birthday gala is done and everyone tells Maeve how wonderful it was, she is going to be riding a high. She will feel like she finally bought her way into the inner circle. That is when we make the move on the Michigan Lake House." Tamsin replied instantly, "Yes. I already talked to the realtor. If we corner her at the Sunday brunch the morning after the gala, tell her how much Mom cries about wanting a family vacation home, she will totally front the down payment. We just need to make sure my name goes on the deed, so she does not try to control it and hold it over our heads." Alaric confirmed, "Exactly. We keep her happy until the gala is over, then we press her for the lake house. She is a soft touch. She will cave if we push the right buttons." My heart pounded against my ribs like a trapped bird. The manipulation was so calculated, so incredibly predatory, it made me physically sick to my stomach. They uninvited me today because I had already paid the final deposit yesterday. In their twisted minds, my financial usefulness for the gala was complete. They thought they had secured the venue, the food, the music, and now they were just clearing the stage of the disgrace before plotting their next massive extraction, a vacation home. The pain in my chest dissolved. The little girl inside me who just wanted her father to be proud, who just wanted her sister to be her friend, finally died. In her place, the senior commercial appraiser took the wheel. I was a woman who dismantled fraudulent property portfolios for a living. I tore apart liars and cheats in boardrooms. And I was about to dismantle my own family. I minimized the email window and opened a blank Excel spreadsheet. It was time to run the numbers. I walked over to the door of my office, locked it, and pulled down the privacy blinds. The emotional shock had passed, replaced by a hyper-focused, clinical state of mind. I opened my secure banking portals, bypassing the standard views and going straight into the raw data. I downloaded 7 years of transaction histories, bank statements, and wire transfer logs. I imported everything into my master Excel spreadsheet. I started categorizing every single dollar that had flowed from my accounts into their lives since the day I got my first major promotion. The property taxes on my parents' house, paid faithfully every November. The monthly emergency transfers to Alaric's checking account. The auto payments for Tamsin's credit cards. The countless bailouts for Jace's parking tickets, phone bills, and now country club fees. I input the formulas, highlighted the columns, and hit enter to calculate the total sum. The number that flashed on the screen made me lean back in my chair, exhaling a long, shaky breath into the quiet room. $412,500. More than $400,000. It was a staggering amount of money. A number that could have bought 2 small investment properties in cash. A number that represented my youth, my crushing stress, my skipped vacations, my worn-out shoes, and my endless overtime hours. I had sacrificed my own future, my own financial security, to fund their comfort, only to be branded a total disgrace. As I reviewed the itemized list, scrolling past the endless stream of outgoing cash, one specific entry caught my eye and made me stop scrolling. A massive wire transfer from 14 months ago for $38,000. I had labeled it Tamsin Wedding Rescue. I remembered that week vividly. The memory tasted like ash in my mouth. Tamsin had called me at midnight, sobbing hysterically into the phone. She claimed her fiancé had made a terrible, risky investment in the stock market, wiping out their entire wedding fund just months before the big day. She said she was going to have to cancel the wedding, that she was socially ruined, that her life was over. Against my better judgment, against every financial instinct I possessed, I wired her $38,000 to cover the vendors and save her perfect day. But as I looked at the routing information on the cleared wire transfer document now, something did not add up. The receiving account did not belong to a wedding planner, a venue, or a catering company. The name on the receiving bank account was Horizon Realty Trust. I frowned, my fingers flying across my keyboard as I ran a quick search through the public property records in Cook County. Being in commercial real estate, I had access to deep databases most people did not even know existed. I typed in Tamsin's full legal name and hit search. A result popped up immediately, staring back at me like a cruel joke. 14 months ago, precisely 3 days after I wired her the $38,000, Tamsin closed on a luxury condo in the trendy downtown district. The down payment listed on the public deed? Exactly $38,000. A cold, bitter laugh escaped my throat, echoing in the empty office. There was no failed investment. The wedding was never in jeopardy. Tamsin had used my sympathy, my fear of seeing her cry, to scam me out of nearly $40,000 to buy a condo in her own name, hiding the asset from her new husband and sticking me with the massive bill. She had literally stolen a house from me. I printed the property deed. I printed the wire transfer receipt with the trust name. I printed the email logs where they plotted to manipulate me into buying a lake house. I printed Jace's unauthorized country club charges. I took a thick, heavy red binder from my supply cabinet and began methodically organizing the documents. Tab 1. Alaric's continuous financial drain and extortion. Tab 2. Tamsin's real estate fraud and embezzlement. Tab 3. Jace's credit card theft and identity misuse. Tab 4. The Ritz Hotel Gala invoices. This was not a family scrapbook. This was an indictment. I closed the binder with a sharp snap just as the intercom on my desk buzzed. Maeve, my assistant's voice came through the speaker. Cale is here to see you. He says it is urgent. Send him in, I replied, smoothing my skirt and sitting up straight, adopting my professional armor. Cale was a senior corporate attorney at a partner firm we frequently worked with. He was brilliant, ruthless in negotiations, and a trusted colleague. I had called him an hour ago, telling him I needed emergency personal counsel. The heavy oak door opened, and Cale walked in, carrying his slim leather briefcase. He took one look at my pale face and the thick red binder sitting ominously on my desk, and his usual professional smile vanished instantly. Who are we destroying today? He asked calmly, taking a seat across from me. My family, I said. Cale did not flinch. He did not offer empty platitudes or tell me that family is everything. He just nodded, opened his briefcase, and pulled out a yellow legal pad and his favorite silver pen. Walk me through it from the beginning. For the next 40 minutes, I laid out the entire situation. I showed him the text from Alaric uninviting me to the gala. I showed him the spreadsheet totaling $412,000 of exploited funds. I handed him the concrete evidence of Jace's country club fraud and the undeniable, paper-trailed proof that Tamsin had embezzled $38,000 to buy her private condo under the guise of a wedding emergency. As Cale reviewed the documents, flipping through the red binder, his jaw tightened. He let out a low, impressed whistle when he saw the property deed for Tamsin's condo next to the wire transfer. Maeve, this is not just messy family drama, Cale said, tapping his pen against the legal pad. This is wire fraud. Your brother is committing identity theft and credit card fraud. Your sister committed theft by deception on a massive scale. You have enough hard evidence right here in this binder to send both of them to federal court. I do not want to send them to prison, I said quietly, the last, dying remnants of my familial loyalty speaking up in a whisper. I just want to cut the blood supply. I want to build a wall so high and so legally sound that they can never touch another dime of my money, and I want to do it without leaving myself legally vulnerable to their retaliation. Understood, Cale said, switching immediately into full lawyer mode. We are going to sever all financial ties. We remove you from all joint accounts immediately. We revoke all authorized user statuses on your credit cards. We cancel every autopay. But more importantly, we are going to draft a formal cease and desist letter. A cease and desist? To my own parents? To all of them, Cale confirmed, writing rapidly on his pad. It establishes a concrete paper trail. It explicitly states that all financial support is terminated effective immediately, and that any further use of your financial information, credit cards, or identity will be treated as a criminal offense and reported to the authorities. It protects you if they try to retaliate or open lines of credit in your name. Just as he was speaking, my personal cell phone rang on the desk. The caller ID flashed Alaric's name in bold letters. I stared at it, my pulse quickening, my stomach clenching on instinct. Put it on speaker, Cale instructed quietly, leaning forward. Do not say anything. Do not react. Just let him talk. I swiped to accept the call and hit the speaker button. Maeve, finally, Alaric's voice boomed through the quiet office, sounding irritated, entitled, and demanding. Listen, I need you to wire $5,000 to my checking account by Friday morning. The band for Mom's Gala needs an extra cash deposit for overtime, and my funds are tied up right now. If you do not send it, the music is ruined, and I am going to have to tell your mother it is your fault that her party is ruined. Do not make me do that, Maeve. Just send the money. I will talk to you later. He hung up without waiting for a reply. The dial tone echoed in the room. I looked at Cale. Cale looked at me, a single eyebrow raised in disbelief. The absolute audacity was staggering. Not only had he just uninvited me, not only had he just called me a disgrace in writing, but he was actively attempting to extort another $5,000 from me for a band I had already fully paid for. He was using my love for my mother as a weapon to shake me down for cash he intended to pocket. Well, Cale said softly, a dangerous smile touching the corners of his mouth. That just made drafting the cease and desist a lot easier. He just threatened and attempted to extort you on a recorded line. Extortion is a very ugly word in court. Draft it, I said, my voice steady, devoid of any warmth or hesitation. Draft the letters for all of them. But first, I have a phone call to make. They think they are throwing a party without me. It is time to turn the lights out. Cale sat quietly, watching intently as I picked up my phone. I dialed the direct line for the events management office at the Ritz Hotel. It rang twice before a polished, highly professional voice answered. Ritz Hotel Events, this is Marcus speaking. How may I assist you today? Hello, Marcus. This is Maeve. I am calling regarding the gala booked for this coming Saturday under the name Alaric. Yes. The 60th birthday gala, Marcus said enthusiastically, the sound of keyboard clicking in the background. Everything is moving along beautifully. We were just finalizing the premium floral arrangements and the seating chart. How can I help you, ma'am? I took a deep breath, steeling my nerves. I am the financial guarantor for this event. I am calling to cancel the gala. Immediately. There was a stunned, heavy silence on the other end of the line. The clicking stopped. I am sorry, ma'am. Cancel? But the event is in 4 days. The premium catering has already been sourced. The staff is scheduled. I understand, I replied smoothly, channeling the ruthless corporate negotiator I was trained to be. I am fully aware of the contract terms. I authorized the hotel to keep the $50,000 deposit as the cancellation fee. Consider it liquidated damages. But the event is canceled. No ballroom, no food, no string quartet, no photographer. Strike it from your calendar. Marcus sounded incredibly flustered, clearly panicking over the sudden loss of the massive event. Ma'am, I must warn you, if we cancel now, there are other complications. What about the referral commission? I frowned, glancing at Cale, who leaned in closer. Excuse me? Referral commission. Yes, Marcus hesitated, clearly realizing he might have stepped into a massive mess. Your sister, Tamsin, negotiated a 10% referral fee for bringing the event to our specific venue. She was expecting a $5,000 payout directly to her account after the gala concluded. A dry, hollow chuckle escaped my chest. The pieces fell perfectly into place. Alaric's demand for $5,000 for the band was exactly the amount Tamsin was expecting as a kickback. Tamsin was not just pretending to be the mastermind behind the party. She had literally set up a kickback scheme to secretly profit off my $50,000 payment. Every single one of them had their hands deep in my pockets. There will be no commission, Marcus, because there is no event, I said coldly. Cancel it. If anyone from the family calls, inform them that the financial sponsor withdrew the funding. Send the cancellation confirmation to my email immediately. Understood, ma'am. Processing the cancellation right now. I ended the call. Step 1 was complete. The stage was destroyed. Next, I opened my banking portal. With Cale sitting across from me, guiding me on the exact legal parameters, I went to war. I clicked on the joint checking account I shared with Alaric, the one he used to pay his mortgage and daily expenses. I transferred my entire balance out to a secure, private account and initiated the formal account closure protocol. I moved to the credit cards. I found the card Jace was using at the country club. I clicked on the card settings, reported it as stolen, and canceled the number immediately, ensuring his next attempt to buy a premium Wagyu steak would result in a humiliating decline at the register in front of his wealthy friends. I found the auto-pay setups. Tamsin's car insurance. Delete. Tamsin's premium cell phone bill. Delete. Alaric's cable subscription. Delete. I meticulously severed every digital tether binding me to them. I watched the green active icons turn red, one by one. The only thing I did not touch, the only auto-pay I left active, was a direct payment set up with a local pharmacy for my mother's vital heart medication. No matter how much I despised my father and siblings, I would not let my mother's health suffer for their sins. Within 30 minutes, the operation was complete. The money vault was sealed shut. The safety net they had taken for granted for 7 years was completely annihilated. I closed my laptop and looked at Cale. He was already slipping the finalized, legally binding cease and desist drafts into a thick manila envelope. They're going in the mail today, Cale said, his voice grim but supportive. By the time they realize the money is gone, by the time the cards decline and the hotel calls them, these letters will be arriving on their doorsteps. Thank you, Cale. He nodded, shook my hand firmly, and left the office, leaving me alone with the silence. I sat alone in the quiet room, the rain still hitting the windows. The adrenaline was fading, leaving behind a strange, hollow sense of peace. I had cut the malignant tumor out of my life. I knew the fallout would be apocalyptic. They would not notice right away. It would take a few days for the declined cards, the bounced checks, and the canceled venue to hit them. But when it did, the explosion would be spectacular. I closed my eyes. The tumor was gone. Now, I just had to wait for the anesthesia to wear off, and their pain would truly begin. Thank you for watching this far. If you support Maeve's decision, please comment, I'm win. This is a special symbol for the amazing viewers who have watched this far. I will like and reply to all comments containing the keyword I'm win. For days past, the silence from my family was heavy, like the thick, suffocating air right before a massive thunderstorm breaks. I knew the exact moment the storm hit. It was Friday morning, precisely at 9 o'clock. I was sitting at my kitchen island, sipping a cup of Earl Grey tea, watching the morning news on my tablet. My personal phone, which had been eerily quiet all week, suddenly lit up. And then, it began to vibrate. It did not stop vibrating. It started with a single text message from Jace. Then a missed call from Tamsin. then 3 back-to-back calls from Alaric. Within 10 minutes, my screen was a chaotic waterfall of notifications. 84 missed calls. 150 text messages. The vault was empty, the cards were dead, and they had just found out. I set my teacup down, took a steadying breath, and opened the message threads one by one. I did not feel fear. I felt the cold, clinical detachment of an auditor reviewing a bankrupt company. Jace's messages were a frantic spiral of humiliation and rage. What the hell did you do? I am at the country club. I tried to pay for a round of drinks for the senior members, and the card declined in front of everyone. The manager came out and told me my junior VIP status was revoked for fraudulent payment. They fired me, Maeve. They escorted me off the golf course in front of everyone. Turn the card back on right now. I swiped his thread away. He was not a victim. He was a thief who finally got caught with his hands in the register. Tamsin's messages were even more unhinged. My card just declined at the nail salon. I had to leave my designer watch as collateral just to get out the door. You are insane. I am going to sue you for canceling Mom's gala. The venue just called Alaric and said the financial sponsor pulled out. How could you ruin Mom's big day just because you threw a tantrum over not being invited? Call me back right now. I read her words and felt a dark satisfaction. She was furious about the gala, but I knew the real reason she was panicking. Without that $50,000 event, her $5,000 secret kickback had vanished into thin air. Then came Alaric. His voicemails were a volatile mix of demands, threats, and sheer panic. I listened to the last one, holding the phone away from my ear. Maeve, pick up the damn phone. The bank just sent me an alert. The joint checking account is closed. The balance is 0. I have a mortgage payment due on Monday. I have bills. You cannot just cut us off without warning. This is childish. If you are upset, we can talk, but you are endangering this family. Turn the money back on, or you are dead to me. Dead to him. The irony was staggering. He had already called me a total disgrace and uninvited me from the family milestone. What more could he possibly take away from me? Just as I was about to turn my phone on silent, I received an urgent text from Kale, my attorney. Check your LinkedIn. Right now. Do not reply to her, just look. My stomach gave a sharp jolt. LinkedIn was my professional sanctuary. It was where my clients, my firm partners, and my industry peers connected with me. I quickly opened the app. Tamsin had gone nuclear. Realizing her text messages were being ignored, she had escalated her attack to my professional network. She had posted a long, dramatic public update and tagged my corporate profile. The post read, "It breaks my heart to share this, but my sister, Maeve, a senior appraiser at her firm, has decided to commit severe financial abuse against our elderly parents. She maliciously canceled our mother's 60th birthday gala at the last minute just to inflict emotional distress. If you do business with her, know that she lacks basic human empathy and punishes her own family when she does not get her way." For a brief, terrifying second, panic seized my throat. In the corporate real estate world, reputation was everything. A public accusation of financial abuse could trigger an HR investigation or cost me millions in client trust. Tamsin knew exactly where to strike to hurt me the most. But I was not alone anymore. Before I could even draft a response, my phone rang. It was Kale. I saw it. I breathed into the receiver, my voice trembling slightly. She is trying to destroy my career. She is trying to destroy herself, Kale corrected, his voice as smooth and sharp as a scalpel. I already took care of it. Refresh the page. I pulled the app down to refresh. The post was gone. Erased. What did you do? I asked, stunned. I sent her a direct message, Kale explained calmly. I informed her that as your retained legal counsel, I had just finished taking screenshots of her post. I told her that if the post was not deleted within 60 seconds, we would immediately file a civil lawsuit for defamation of character, tortious interference with your business. And I threw in a polite reminder about the $38,000 of wire fraud regarding her condo. She deleted it in 42 seconds. I let out a breath I did not realize I was holding, a harsh laugh escaping my lips. Thank you, Kale. She is desperate, Maeve. The cease and desist letters were delivered via certified mail this morning. They know the game is over. Just brace yourself, because they are going to try every manipulative tactic left in the book. We hung up. I sat alone in my kitchen, the chaotic storm of messages still pouring in. I had detonated the bomb, and the shockwave was ripping through their lives. But what happens when the dust settles? The adrenaline crash hit me hard by early afternoon. I had spent hours ignoring the relentless barrage of notifications, maintaining the strict boundary Kale had advised. I felt physically exhausted, my muscles aching as if I had just run a marathon. The silence in my apartment felt heavy, laden with the ghosts of the family I had just amputated from my life. My phone rang again. I was about to let it go straight to voicemail, assuming it was Alaric calling from a burner number, but I caught a glimpse of the caller ID. It was not a hidden number. It was a local landline from my parents' neighborhood. I recognized the last 4 digits. It belonged to Mrs. Cressida, the elderly woman who lived right next door to my parents for the last 30 years. I hesitated. Mrs. Cressida was the neighborhood gossip, a sweet but incredibly nosy woman who spent her days tending to her rose bushes and watching everyone else's business. Why would she be calling me now? I swiped to answer. Hello? Mrs. Cressida. Oh, Maeve, dear. I am so glad you picked up. Her voice crackled through the speaker, sounding breathless and urgent. I hope I am not bothering you at work, but I had to call you. I just had to. Is everything all right? Is someone hurt? My mind immediately jumped to Mom. Despite everything, the thought of her heart giving out sent a spike of pure terror through my veins. No, nobody is physically hurt, Mrs. Cressida assured me quickly. But things are very ugly over here today. Very ugly. The postal worker dropped off some thick envelopes this morning, and your father started screaming so loud it scared my cat. The cease and desist letters. They had arrived. I am sorry you had to hear that, Mrs. Cressida. It is just a private family matter. I know, dear, I know I should mind my own business, she whispered, though I could hear the eagerness in her tone. But I was out watering my hydrangeas near the fence, and their kitchen window was wide open. I heard what they were saying. Your father and your sister, Tamsin, were saying awful things about you. Just terrible. Calling you selfish, saying you ruined everything. I sighed, closing my eyes. I know they are. I am used to it. But that is not why I am calling, Mrs. Cressida interrupted, her voice suddenly turning fierce and serious. I am calling because of your mother. I have known Rowena for 30 years, and I have never, ever seen her do what she did today. I stood up from my kitchen stool, my grip tightening on the phone. What did Mom do? Your father yelled that you were a disgrace, that you were dead to him, Mrs. Cressida recounted, her voice hushed. And then I heard a sound like a gunshot. It echoed right through the window. Maeve, your mother slapped him. The world tilted on its axis. Rowena, my quiet, gentle mother, who always deferred to Alaric, who never raised her voice, who always tried to keep the peace. She hit him? She slapped him right across the face, Mrs. Cressida continued, breathless. And then she started screaming. I have never heard her scream like that. She told him, "How dare you?" She built herself up from nothing. She works day and night. She is the only one in this house with any integrity, and you are not fit to carry her shoes. A hot, sudden tear escaped my eye, tracking down my cheek. I could not speak. My throat felt like it was blocked by a stone. Your father tried to tell her that you canceled her birthday party out of spite, Mrs. Cressida went on. But your mother told him to shut his mouth. She said she did not care about some stupid party, she cared about her daughter. She told them all they were parasites. I thought you needed to know, Maeve. Because whatever is happening, your mother is fighting for you. She is fighting for you like a lioness. The stone in my throat broke. I let out a jagged sob, covering my mouth with my free hand so the elderly neighbor would not hear me break down. For 32 years, I thought my mother was just a passive bystander. I thought she let them mistreat me because she secretly agreed with them. But she did not know the truth about the money. She had been kept in the dark, fed lies by Alaric to protect his fragile ego. And the moment she saw them turning on me, she went to war. Thank you, I choked out, wiping my face. Thank you so much for telling me this, Mrs. Cressida. You have no idea what this means to me. You are a good girl, Maeve. Don't let them tell you otherwise, she said kindly before hanging up. I dropped the phone onto the counter. The cold, analytical armor I had worn all week shattered entirely. I wept. I cried for the years of isolation, for the pain of being the outcast, and for the overwhelming relief of knowing that my mother truly loved me. When the tears finally stopped, a new kind of resolve settled over me. Alaric and Tamsin had tried to use Mom's Gala to hurt me. They had tried to weaponize her against me. But they had failed. I picked up my phone, bypassed the hundreds of toxic messages from my siblings and father, and opened a direct thread to my mother. Mom, we need to talk. Not at the house. Meet me at Nola's bakery at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Do not tell Dad where you are going. Her reply came through less than a minute later. I will be there, my sweet girl. I went in my home office, grabbed the thick red binder full of financial evidence, and headed for the door. It was time to show her the truth. Everything was about to change. How would she react when she saw the real numbers? The bell above the door of Nola's bakery chimed as I walked in. The air was thick with the comforting scent of vanilla, warm butter, and roasted coffee beans. Nola saw me from behind the pastry case. She immediately wiped her hands on her apron, nodded, and pointed toward a private booth tucked away in the back corner, shielded by a large potted fiddle-leaf fig tree. Mom was already there. She looked smaller than I remembered, fragile, her hands wrapped tightly around a mug of herbal tea. When she saw me approach, she stood up, her eyes red and puffy from crying. She did not say a word. She just wrapped her arms around me, holding on so tightly I could feel her heart beating against my chest. I am so sorry, Maeve, she whispered into my hair. I am so sorry for what your father said to you. I did not know he sent that text. I would never have allowed it. I hugged her back, letting out a breath I had been holding for days. I know, Mom. I know you didn't. We sat down across from each other. Nola quietly slipped a plate of fresh scones onto the table and retreated, giving us privacy. I placed the thick red binder on the wooden table between us. It looked heavy and ominous next to the delicate teacups. Mom, I started, keeping my voice gentle but firm. I know Dad told you I canceled the gala out of spite. I know he told you I am being cruel. But there is a reason I did it. There is a truth about this family that you have been shielded from for 7 years. Rowena frowned, her brow furrowing. A truth about what? Your father said you were just stressed at work and taking it out on us. He said you froze the joint accounts because of a misunderstanding. It is not a misunderstanding, I said. I opened the red binder and flipped to the first page. It was the master Excel spreadsheet, printed in crisp, undeniable black and white. Mom, look at the bottom line. Look at the total. She put on her reading glasses, leaning forward. Her eyes scanned down the columns of dates, descriptions, and amounts. When she reached the final cell, the number $412,500, she gasped. She pulled her glasses off, rubbing her eyes as if they were deceiving her, and put them back on. Maeve, what is this? She asked, her voice trembling. What does this number mean? That is exactly how much money I have given to this family over the last 7 years, I said quietly. Dad did not pay off the mortgage with his savings. I paid it. Dad did not cover the property taxes when his hours were cut at the logistics plant. I paid them. I bought Tamsin's car insurance. I paid Jace's fines. The gala, the $50,000 for the Ritz Hotel. I paid for it all. Dad was just the middleman taking the credit. The color drained entirely from Rowena's face. She looked like she had just been struck by lightning. But Alaric told me his investments were doing well. He told me he was day trading. He said we were comfortable. He lied to you, Mom. He lied to protect his pride because he could not stand the thought of you knowing his daughter was the one keeping a roof over your head. I flipped the page to the tab labeled Tamsin. I showed her the wire transfer for $38,000, and then I showed her the property deed for the luxury condo. Tamsin told me she needed this money to save her wedding because her fiancé lost their savings, I explained, watching my mother's heart break piece by piece. She lied. She took my money and bought a condo in secret. And just yesterday, she demanded a $5,000 kickback from the Ritz hotel manager for booking your party there. Rowena covered her mouth, a stifled sob shaking her shoulders. To realize your own children, your own husband, were capable of such deep, predatory deception was a trauma I would not wish on anyone. And there is one more thing, I said softly, almost not wanting to deliver the final blow. But she needed to know. I flipped to the third tab. You remember that emergency medical fund Dad asked me to contribute to? The one he said was for your future care. Rowena nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. Yes. He said it was in a high-yield savings account for my heart treatments. I transferred $500 into that account every single month for 3 years, I said. But when I ran the audit, the money is gone, Mom. Every last cent. Gone? How can it be gone? Because it was not a medical fund, I revealed the third massive plot twist. I hired a private investigator yesterday to trace the routing numbers. Alaric took every dollar I sent for your medical care and dumped it into an offshore cryptocurrency scam. He wanted to get rich quick to prove he was still the man of the house. He lost it all. Your safety net does not exist. The silence that followed was deafening. The gentle, quiet woman sitting across from me seemed to vanish. In her place, a cold, terrifying stillness settled over her features. She looked down at the documents, her hands no longer trembling. The sorrow in her eyes was rapidly being replaced by a towering, volcanic rage. She closed the binder and pushed it back toward me. Mom? I asked cautiously. Rowena stood up. She picked up her purse and looked down at me with an expression of pure steel. You are coming home with me tonight, Maeve. At 7 o'clock. Mom, I don't think that is a good idea. Cale advised me to stay away. I do not care what your lawyer advised. Rowena cut me off, her voice ringing with an authority I had never heard before. You will bring this binder. You will bring your lawyer if you want to. But you will walk through the front door of that house tonight, and we are going to hold a trial. And God help the man who tries to lie to my face again. She turned and walked out of the bakery, leaving her tea untouched. The war was no longer just mine. What would happen when my mother finally unleashed her wrath? The clock on the dashboard of Cale's luxury sedan read exactly 7 o'clock. We were parked across the street from my childhood home, a modest suburban house with fading siding and a perfectly manicured lawn a lawn Jace was supposed to maintain but rarely did. The living room lights were blazing. Are you ready for this? Cale asked, turning the engine off. He was dressed in his sharpest charcoal suit, carrying a sleek black briefcase. I held the thick red binder against my chest like a shield. Let's get it over with, I said. We walked up the driveway, and I unlocked the front door with my old key. The moment we stepped into the living room, the oppressive atmosphere hit me. Alaric was pacing the floor, his face red with stress. Tamsin was sitting on the sofa, aggressively scrolling on her phone, while Jace sulked in the armchair. They looked like cornered animals. When they saw me walk in with a man in a sharp suit, the dynamic instantly shifted. Alaric stopped pacing. Tamsin dropped her phone. What is the meaning of this? Alaric demanded, puffing out his chest, trying to project authority. You come into my house after serving us with legal threats? Who the hell is this guy? This is my attorney, Cale, I said calmly, stepping into the center of the room. And I did not come here for you. I came because Mom asked me to. Rowena emerged from the kitchen. She was wearing her Sunday dress, her hair pulled back tightly. She walked over and stood right beside me, presenting a united front that visibly shocked the rest of the family. Sit down, Rowena ordered her husband and children. Her voice was quiet, but it possessed a razor-sharp edge. All of you. Sit. Alaric hesitated, but something in his wife's eyes made him sink into the recliner. Tamsin and Jace remained frozen. Rowena turned to me and held out her hand. I handed her the red binder. She dropped it onto the glass coffee table with a heavy thud that made everyone flinch. I spent the afternoon looking through this, Rowena began, her gaze sweeping over the three of them. I saw the spreadsheets. I saw the receipts. I saw exactly how this family has been surviving for the last 7 years. Alaric's face lost its color. He tried to stammer a defense. Rowena, honey, she is exaggerating. I just borrowed a little here and there to float us through the hard months. It is just family helping family. $412,000 is not floating us, Alaric. Rowena shouted, her voice echoing off the walls. It is a hostile takeover of our daughter's life. You lied to me. You told me your investments were thriving. You told me you were providing for us. I was trying to protect you. Alaric fired back, desperation leaking into his tone. No, I interjected, stepping forward. You were trying to protect your pride. And you were willing to bleed me dry to do it. Cale stepped up beside me, opening his briefcase. Actually, the bleeding did not stop with the money in the binder. Mr. Alaric, would you care to explain what you tried to do this morning at 9:30? Alaric's eyes darted nervously. I do not know what you are talking about. Cale pulled out a sheet of paper. This is a fraud alert from Capital City Bank. Someone attempted to open a new line of credit for $20,000 online. They used Maeve's social security number. But the application was flagged because the IP address was traced directly to the router in this house. And the signature entered electronically was yours. You tried to forge your daughter's signature to open a secret credit card after she cut you off. Tamsin gasped, looking at her father in horror. Even Jace looked sick. That is a federal crime, Cale stated, his voice ice cold. Identity theft and bank fraud. We have the digital footprint. We could have police at this door in 5 minutes. Alaric shrank into his chair, the arrogant patriarch entirely broken. He put his head in his hands, trembling. And you, Rowena turned her furious gaze to Tamsin. $38,000 for a wedding emergency? You stole your sister's money to buy yourself a luxury condo and hid it from your own husband? Are you that rotten inside? Tamsin burst into tears, her perfect facade crumbling. I deserved a nice place. Maeve has all that money, she does not even spend it on anything fun. I just wanted a head start. You are a thief, Rowena said, her voice dripping with disgust. She then turned to Jace. And you? Stealing her medical emergency card to play golf with rich kids? You are a 24-year-old man acting like a parasite. The power shift in the room was absolute. They were no longer the arrogant family members looking down on the boring, corporate daughter. They were exposed, humiliated, and legally trapped. The house of cards had completely collapsed, and they were buried under the rubble. The living room fell into a suffocating, heavy silence. The only sound was Tamsin's pathetic sobbing and Alaric's ragged breathing. They had been stripped of their excuses, their justifications, and their delusions. Rowena did not say another word. She turned her back on them and walked down the hallway toward the master bedroom. We waited in the tense quiet. A minute later, she returned carrying an old, faded shoebox. The edges were worn, and it looked like it had been hidden away for decades. She walked over to the coffee table, right next to the red binder of financial crimes, and took the lid off the box. You all thought Maeve was a disgrace, Rowena said softly, her voice thick with emotion. You told her she was an embarrassment because she cared about her career, because she worked hard instead of begging for handouts. She reached into the box and pulled out a stack of papers. She laid them out on the glass table one by one. My breath caught in my throat. It was a newspaper clipping from my high school, announcing my name on the dean's list. Next to it was the program from my university graduation, the one nobody attended. She had a copy. There were printouts of my firm's press releases whenever I closed a major commercial deal. There were photographs of me accepting industry awards, downloaded and printed from the internet. I never showed you these, Rowena looked at me, tears brimming in her eyes. Because your father was so insecure, so jealous of your success, that bringing up your name started fights. But I kept them. I kept every single one. You thought nobody showed up to your graduation, Maeve. But I attended every ceremony, every award, every milestone in my mind. You are the greatest pride of my life. I broke. The rigid, professional shell I had maintained all week shattered entirely. I sank onto the sofa next to my mother and cried, mourning the years we had lost to Alaric's toxic insecurity, but rejoicing in the undeniable proof that I was loved. Alaric stared at the makeshift museum of my achievements spread across his coffee table. The contrast was devastating. On one side, the red binder proving his theft and failure. On the other, the shoebox proving his daughter's brilliance. He looked like a man who had just realized he threw away a diamond to hold onto a handful of dirt. "I am sorry," Alaric whispered, his voice cracking. He looked up at me, his eyes bloodshot and full of shame. "I was so jealous, Maeve. You were making triple my salary before you were 30. I felt useless. And taking your money, it made me feel like I was still the provider, even though I was just stealing from you. I am a failure." It was the most honest thing he had ever said. But an apology does not erase a $400,000 theft. Tamsin slid off the couch, kneeling on the carpet. "Maeve, please. Please do not tell my husband about the condo. Please do not press charges. I will pay you back. I will set up a payment plan. Just please do not send me to jail." Jace quietly reached his wrist. He unclasped the heavy, designer watch he had bought using my funds. He placed it silently on the coffee table, refusing to make eye contact, his arrogance utterly extinguished. I looked at the three of them. I felt no pity, but I also felt no desire for vengeance. I was just tired. "I am not going to press criminal charges," I said, my voice echoing in the quiet room. Cale looked at me, but did not object. "I am not going to call the police about the forgery, Alaric. I am not going to take your condo, Tamsin." They all exhaled collectively, a wave of relief washing over them. But I held up my hand. "But hear me very clearly," I continued, my tone sharp and uncompromising. "I am no longer your bank. I am no longer your safety net. From this second forward, you are on your own. You will pay your own mortgage, Alaric. You will pay your own debts, Tamsin. You will earn your own living, Jace. If you ever ask me for a single dollar again, if you ever try to use my name, I will let Cale destroy you. The free ride is over. Live your own lives." I stood up, took the red binder, and walked out the front door, leaving the shoebox of my achievements on the table. The chains were finally broken. 6 months passed. The transition was brutal for them, but deeply liberating for me. Without my financial support, reality hit the family like a freight train. Alaric could no longer pretend to be a wealthy retiree. To save the house from foreclosure, he had to take a job working the overnight dispatch shift at a local trucking company. The grueling hours humbled him, stripping away the last remnants of his misplaced arrogance. Tamsin's secret unraveled. When she could not make the massive property tax payments on her luxury condo, she was forced to confess to her husband. They nearly divorced. To avoid bankruptcy, she had to sell her brand new car and take on a second job managing social media for local boutiques just to keep her head above water. Jace, stripped of his fake country club persona, had to face the real world. He took a night job stocking shelves at a convenience store to pay off the massive debt he had accrued on his personal cards. He stopped pretending to be someone he wasn't. I watched all of this from a safe distance. I did not step in to save them. I let them struggle, because the struggle was the only thing that would force them to grow up. My own life blossomed. Without the crushing weight of their expenses, my savings accounts skyrocketed. I felt lighter, healthier, and more focused. I bought myself a small cabin up in the mountains, a place of peace and quiet where nobody could reach me unless I wanted them to. But the most beautiful change was my relationship with my mother. It was a crisp Saturday afternoon in November. We were gathered at Nola's bakery after hours. The front door was locked, the blinds were drawn, and the warm glow of string lights illuminated the room. It was Rowena's real 60th birthday party. There was no grand ballroom. There was no string quartet. There were no fake friends or extended relatives putting on a show. It was just Mom, Nola, Cale, me, and eventually Alaric. He walked in quietly, wearing his work uniform, looking tired but genuine. He carried a small bouquet of wildflowers and a simple silver necklace. He had paid for the dinner and the gifts with his own wages. It was modest, but it was honest. Mom blew out the candles on a beautiful double chocolate cake Nola had baked. She looked across the table at me, her eyes shining with unshed tears, and smiled. "Thank you for coming, Maeve," she said softly. "I wouldn't miss it, Mom," I replied. I had brought a gift, too. But it wasn't a check. It wasn't a deed to a house. It was a digital photo frame, preloaded with hundreds of pictures of Mom's childhood, her wedding, and the few happy memories we shared. I gave her my time, my respect, and my presence. And for the first time in my life, I knew that was exactly what she wanted. Setting boundaries is the most painful, terrifying thing you can do when dealing with toxic family members. It feels like you are tearing your own heart out. But sometimes, you have to let the bridge burn to realize you never needed to cross it in the first place. My value was never in my wallet, it was in my character. And I refuse to let anyone discount that ever again. Many of my extended relatives, the flying monkeys of the family, still send me angry messages. They call me ruthless for exposing my father's forgery and forcing my sister to sell her car. They say I should have just forgiven them and kept the peace, because family is family. They say I went too far by legally cornering them. So, I turn to you. Do you think I went too far? Was I too harsh in letting them hit rock bottom, or was it the only way to break the cycle of abuse? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one of them. Thank you for watching and listening to my story. If this resonated with you, or if you are dealing with your own toxic family dynamics, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video. Your support helps bring more stories to light.